We all know, unlike Gordon Johnson, that Tesla is dominating the EV market. But today I don't want to focus on the results of Tesla. I want to focus on the company culture that led to these results and innovations. So that's why I've invited Farzad Mesbahi today, a rockin' Tesla specialist with the most rock and roll live streams. So how about you tell us who you are and how long did you work at Tesla?
Yeah, just having fun, But Farzad Mesbahi. I worked at Tesla for 4 years. I worked from July 2017 through September 2021. I joined by title as an analyst, but really I was brought in to really help optimize and build out the distribution network at Tesla. And then before that, I worked for a pet food distributor in the United States, the largest one in the country, called Phillips Pet Food and Supplies. And I was there for 7 years. And I ended my career there as a director of business intelligence and pricing, and reporting to the CEO and the CFO and a bunch of other folks as well. So my background's mostly analytics, but through Tesla, I also gained a lot of exposure to operations, distribution, and things like that. So that's sort of my background. And now I'm just kind of doing my own thing now, thankfully, because of the sort of the great fortune we've had working at Tesla and all the other stuff. And now I'm just having fun and I guess playing guitar on YouTube.
You could say that.
That's a little bit about me.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So you told the field that you were at. Can you elaborate a little bit what you did? What was your department?
Yeah. So initially, my first few weeks at that company was primarily around building a dashboard suite and analytics that would help the operations at Tesla at that facility that I joined in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which was at the time the distribution center that did the most lines, so the most basically product distribution in the entire network at that time when I joined it. And my primary goal joining the company was to create a dashboard suite, essentially analytics, key performance indicators or KPIs, and basically data tools that would help the team at that facility and across the entire distribution network, specifically in the United States, to figure out, how we're performing against metrics, what our throughput looks like, identifying gaps, identifying opportunities, a lot of different inventory control measures as well to ensure that we have the right product in the right amount, a lot of inbound tools. So just a lot of different data sets. And then as those data sets became more and more robust and helpful, I essentially built out a team around me that would take opportunities that we thought were worth going after, and then we would leverage that data to implement processes or to troubleshoot or to figure out new ideas or innovate on certain things to try and make something much, much better, thinking outside the box and stuff like that. So that's sort of, and it morphed over time too. So initially I joined the company as just, again, like purely like, here's the dashboard and this is what I'm really good at. And by the way, I've led teams and I kind of know how to make that happen. And what Tesla's really good at is if they see that you're good at something, they're like, okay, please do more of that, right? Please, here are situations that you can go after that will enable you to sort of exercise that muscle a little bit further. But yeah, primarily data focused, but that was like maybe like 10 to 15% of the total work that I did while I was at Tesla.
So you innovated also in your field. So for example, if you saw an opportunity to make something faster or improve the data sets or the interfaces, so you did that. How was that incentivized? That's very interesting for me because I'm hinting a little bit at Tesla's anti-handbook that leaked like 1 year ago or 1.5 years ago. I wanted to know how this handbook influenced the work there, because if you compare it to VW, for example, or Mercedes in Germany, because I'm from Germany here, their handbooks look a lot different than Tesla's 2-page handbook. And because I'm studying communications design, I'm very interested in those kind of things, like the language that was used, the simple language, and the direction of use your own head. Because in Germany, we are so process focused. It's horrible. And and that's why VW gets all their market share slowly driven away, and I think that's really a huge factor. Maybe you can tell something about the relationship between the handbook or the wording inside of the company with the performance of the teams and everything. Yeah,
sure, absolutely. That's a really interesting and great question. So the handbook definitely sets the sort of tone for everybody at the company that says the company's trusting you first. Okay, we're not going to, and just to give you a little bit of more color, like that BMW, Mercedes, and I know a lot of Germans are famous for being very process driven, but that's not just like a lot of companies in the United States. I would say a majority of them, if not almost all of them, are the same exact way. And the main reason why, in my opinion, is because they're really what they're trying to do is they're trying to simplify the company's culture to the lowest common denominator, and they're trying not to get sued. That's literally how these companies a lot of the times think, right? Yeah. Whereas Tesla, the way Tesla works, and this is, I think, a direct reflection of Elon's ethos and how he carries himself, is that just maximize the chances of talented people to do talented things. And that's what that handbook does, right? It doesn't really lay out boundaries. It doesn't say, don't do this, except of like I think being a jerk was really the only thing it says not to do, something not to do. Everything else was just, hey, this is what you should do. It's very positive in that way. It's enforcing good behavior, right? And the fact that it's only 2 to 3 pages or however short it is, it maximizes the chance of an employee to actually read the damn thing, right? Whereas at every other company, you have to sit down for 2 days with HR and learn, this is what the company culture is about, right? It's a very radical way of really, and especially if you think Tesla's 100,000 plus employees, they're putting so much trust in that workforce that says, guys, like, we're just gonna enable you to do what you think is the right thing to do. But more importantly, the reason why that works so well for Tesla is because they invest so much time to ensure that the right talent is hired, so that they are able to function within those confines, right? But then you can also make an argument that says that, maybe it's not like a talent thing that you're unable to do that. It's because you're trusting people so much, people will automatically do the right thing if you trust them, right? It's very, very interesting, and that really empowers people. I felt extremely empowered when I was there. I was like, holy crap, I can really try. They really allow me to try stuff the way I think it should be done. And then once you build something that's actually helpful, it becomes addicting. And I think Tesla knows that. And that's why they have the handbook that's set up the way it is. Let me know if that sort of answers your question. I could go on like in 1,000 different ways, but let me know if that's sort of helping you understand it a little bit better.
It was pretty good explained. So I'm also thinking about the throughput that Tesla has, because I can imagine that under that pressure, not everybody is for that kind of work. Some people need to be babysitted more. How was the feeling there that the people that worked at Tesla, how was the throughput, like the negative aspects?
Yeah, I think so that there's definitely a certain type of attitude and mentality you have to have when you're at Tesla, because you're being trusted so much. The company doesn't, babysitting is a waste of time. That's how the company views it, in my opinion, and sort of the way that they've crafted all the different things that they've done with the handbook and everything else, with leadership and stuff. Babysitting is kind of a waste of time if you really think about it. If you're hiring somebody that you have to babysit, you have to make sure they're always doing the right thing. You're not really enabling that person, A, to really reach their full potential, but B, you're wasting your time. That person that's babysitting that person should be doing something else, like figuring out a new way to solve a problem, or helping remove some bottlenecks, or thinking of the new way of handling something, right? Instead of just like literally acting like a parent or a teacher or like a babysitter, essentially. So there's definitely there's a floor set there by doing that. And some people are just not used to that type of environment. Some people are used to coming from companies where they spent an entire 3 months to 6 months training you on every little thing, and you have all these SOPs written out to the T, and it never changes, and essentially you memorize everything. That's not how Tesla works, and Tesla's constantly changing as well. So there's definitely a certain percentage of the workforce that doesn't last very long because of that. I would say, I don't know. I mean, in the environment that I worked in is a little bit different because we hired primarily like warehouse workers. We also had engineers and stuff, but and usually the turnover rate in that sort of enterprise or that sort of industry is relatively high. But I would say Tesla, what happened is like the ones that would essentially stay for say 6 months, they would usually stay for a really long time. Like a lot of those people are still there. And then the ones that would come in within like a month or two, you kind of know if you're going to fit in or not. You kind of know if this is sort of the job for you or not, just because of how demanding it can be. And for those that are still there, they definitely go through bouts of like burnout. I mean, I've experienced burnout multiple times while I was at Tesla. And what I did is I took some time off. I took some time off and I went back and I rested. And fortunately, I felt that the company and my leader, especially, were very accommodating with that, because they trust you that you're going to come back refreshed, and they trust you that the efforts that you're putting towards the company is good. And the last thing you want is somebody that's burned out to work on something, because then their efficiency comes way down, right? They need some time to rest. So there's a balance there. But I think the fact that the mission is so important, like for the people that view the mission being so important as I do and many others do as well, it becomes really easy to go back, because you're like, okay, what I'm working on is very important and it's going to matter. So even though I might face some very difficult challenges, I'm still going to sit down and make it happen. And I find that a lot of people discover that mentality working at Tesla, whereas before maybe they never had that sort of mentality before. I feel like working at Tesla allows that person to develop that, because the mission of the company is so much larger than most other companies, that it really enables you to say, hey, I'm working really hard here, but I know it's for something good. Because then you step out, especially nowadays, and then you go on YouTube, or you go to the Tesla communities, you have all these people that are like, oh my God, I love the company so much, it's so awesome. It gives you a lot of strength, and it gives you a lot of motivation to keep going. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag, but the ones that aren't there for a really long time, they know very early on, and those that stay usually stay for a long time. I know my leader from Tesla, who I still talk to, I'm pretty close with. This is going to be his 9th year at the company, and he's working just as hard as he's ever worked. So it's just, man, it's addicting. It can be very addicting sometimes. You really can.
Interesting, yeah, very much so. Because the head of full self-driving just took a sabbatical. I imagine the stress that he is going through to develop these things, and he's very intelligent and everything, and very focused on this hard problem to solve. I can imagine that it's burning you out a little bit. But do you think that the simple mission statement combined with the, I would say, priming the worker beforehand, that puts the person into some kind of autopilot state? Just, okay, I have this filter now, so easy steps, don't fuck up, just say it like that, or anything. And
Sure.
Do you think the priming of that helps to feel the mission more or less than to see it as a list of things you have to do, for example? Yeah.
So I want to make sure I understand the question fully. So what you're saying is having the mission that Tesla does, and sort of having that handbook beforehand, and sort of that primer is what you're referencing to. Is that the thing, like, that's primarily responsible for ensuring that people
Yeah.
are able to execute to their fullest potential? I just want to make sure I fully understand that.
Yeah, exactly. You know the company culture beforehand and everything, and you feel
Okay.
it more or less. It's more about on the feeling side. Yeah,
For sure. Yeah, 100%. I think that's a very big variable that sort of sets the stage. I think mission of the company is dramatically underrated at most companies. I think, and if you really think about human beings, and I've been thinking about this so much ever since I left. Like, 'cause now that I have all this freaking time, I can actually sit down and think for a little bit about like life and all that stuff. But humans are a very interesting like animal, like thing, because we're like, you really think about. I think I feel very strongly that every single person on this planet can be so much more efficient and so much more. They can bring so much value to the world and do way more than they ever thought if they had that thing that they're very passionate about. If they find out, okay, what is the thing that I'm passionate about? And when you have a company that has a thing, like in Tesla's case, it's advancing the world to sustainable transport and energy consumption, because it's extremely important for us to do that. Otherwise, we might risk running out of resources or create climate change or whatever. And it's going to be really, really bad for humanity. That is a grand statement. That is a grand goal. And so, yeah, maybe not 90% of the world's population perhaps is not really passionate about that, but 10% of the world's population could be. And 10% of 8 billion people is how many people? It's 800 million people, right? So that is a humongous pool of people, whatever the percentages are. The point I'm trying to make is, like, companies, what they need to do, what I think is very important, is they have to figure out how to really connect to human beings at their core with some sort of extremely important mission. But the thing is, a lot of companies, they don't exist for a mission; they exist for profit. So it's like, okay, so how do you figure out, like, is there any way, like, what percentage of the companies that exist today could actually redefine the purpose of their existence to try and connect with a human being in that way, right? And if there are companies out there, like, I wonder how many companies have actually sat down and did that math and sat down and is like, okay, so, like, of course our job is to make money for the company so that we can keep operating and bring good values, but is there something we can come up with that where we can connect really, really much closer to a human? Tesla being able to do that is by far one of the biggest advantages, especially related to other automakers. Like, what is BMW's core mission? To create the ultimate driving machine. Okay, cool. What does that mean? All right. What does that mean? Right? Mercedes, what's their mission? To create really nice cars. Cool. Like, I don't even know what their mission is per se, you know? So I think, yeah, that's a huge advantage. And I really, if there's one thing I would encourage companies and, like, leaders of large companies to do, which if they ever listen to this or if they ever hear me talk about this, which is probably never going to happen, but forget it. If they ever come to that, I really think what they should really do is, okay, can I put the context of my company within something that's existential, so that people can be inspired to that, but then act accordingly against that. And don't just say, we're doing this to make it better, and then people join the company and it's just like, and just another company. It's going to be even worse. Like, can you actually sit down and rewrite how the company should function based on what the mission you believe, like what the mission should be for the company, you know? But yeah, that's a huge advantage for Tesla. That was like a very long answer for a very simple question, but
No,
I'm very
it
passionate
was
about
great
this.
because
Yeah.
you elaborate the details. There are the nuggets. That's what I seek out for. So
Sure.
on that topic, it's very interesting. The German automotive companies really slept because they dominated the market so long, and even digitalization and Apple 2006 with the iPhone, the release of the iPhone, I mean, it disrupted every industry so fast, and it's just like, I don't know, like 16 years ago, or no, 14 years or 16 years.
Yeah.
My math is
Yeah.
bad.
No, you're good.
Because I'm a designer. So,
hey, listen, I went to school for math. I have a bachelor's of science in math, and I'm bad at math, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, and what happened was that it was so fast, so they couldn't really act. And what I observed in Germany especially is that companies like Tesla are so damn agile that these old structures that we still have, these dinosaurs, I mean, GM and Ford have maybe similar problems because they're so reliant on third-party, how do you say?
Yeah, suppliers and everything.
Suppliers,
like that.
yeah, thank you. It's very interesting how to react to that. And I think a huge advantage is the mission statement. Because I'm a designer, I'm looking for the design aspects or the communication design aspects. And I've observed that it's just marketing talk. Like, also GM does that too, and Ford too. All this marketing mumbo jumbo, and it's a lot of talk and no walk. Like at a Tesla, you are primed to know you have to innovate the small areas you're working on, and if you have a preference of doing something and contribute to get rid of bottlenecks or solve problems, that's what they incentivize. And if you look at Mercedes, for example, they don't really have a strong mission statement that a human being can relate to, really, because it's just like, okay, we make the most luxurious cars. It's just talk. I mean, they are not on the front. Yeah. And I think maybe you can elaborate if that's true, or if you would say that is true, that Tesla is an idea that is very strong, and that's why people get drawn to it, and they incentivize the right things. So you want to work at Tesla, for example. I can work on the front of innovation, really the front. And if I'm a software developer, I'm not going to VW. And it's crazy because now Giga Berlin started, and I think all those engineers will go to Tesla, and that's a very interesting shift because we have so good people in quality control and everything. and engineers that are very specialized in that field. For example, Mercedes spends so much money how the sound of the door is when it closes, for example. And we have and everybody laughed at Tesla 2012 when they had the gaps in the rear panels and everything and all these quality control issues. But it's not about that. They innovated, and now they have the German talent, especially young, aspiring people who are interested in engineering will go to Tesla and they will improve things, I think, because that's an asset that Germany really has, is the engineers. So that's very interesting.
Let me make a comment on that real quick. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's
what
your
you said is very fascinating. No, not at all. Like I love the fact that you're sort of adding your nuggets because it helps me sort of think about mine too. But I think you talking about Mercedes being so focused on ensuring that closing a door sounds as good and feels as good as humanly possible is good. Like that is a very good thing. But think about the context of that within the context of Tesla, right? And which is the point you made is like what it shows how important it is for a company to truly invest the core of why they exist, right? And so if Tesla has become extremely good at that, and so everything else that's superficial will get done eventually. So like they're focusing on the right things, but the problem with Mercedes and BMW and all these car companies, they've been around for so freaking long that they feel as if all the core stuff's already done. That's why they can focus on the doors. That's why they can focus on the stitching. You know what I'm saying? It has to be a complete mentality shift for the company. And then I don't know how many people Mercedes employs. I'm sure well over 100,000, probably more than a couple 100,000 people. I'm sure they employ so many freaking people. But then you have to think about, okay, how do I manage all those people there and shift all their mentality from, hey, we are the best at what we do, we can focus on all the beautiful things, to, hey, guess what? Everything that we're working on, we have to completely redo because we do not know how to do the core thing now. That is a complete mentality shift, and it's a complete disruption to the culture of Mercedes. And then the question becomes, is Mercedes capable of shifting that gear, no pun intended, to that, right? I just wanted to add that because it's like Mercedes is trapped. They're trapped. You know, BMW is trapped. GM is trapped. Ford is trapped. Like I feel very sad for these car companies because I know that they make beautiful products and every single one of those companies do make good things. But guess what? The game has completely changed. It has completely changed. So unless you figure out how to completely shift the mentality of the culture of those companies and the people that are working there, those 1 million plus people, 2 million plus people, whatever that is, of all these legacy automakers that all have to shift their mentality completely and admit to themselves that what we make is no longer good enough. Like you can't focus on the little things that we've been doing. So I just wanted to add that there. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that's a very important point to make, is that these guys, even if they wanted to, it's going to be almost impossible for them to change. But
yeah, it's interesting. And I think it's so much that's why I'm talking about company culture, because it's so much organizational. How is the organization structured is very important. I think at Tesla, it was like the idea came first, then came the structure to hold it together. And we have also the leadership. Like Elon Musk is a very strong leader in comparison to leaders at German car factories.
He's very important.
Yeah.
He's very important.
Yeah, but I think he's very important for setting the tone of the company. That's very important. And people aspire to him. Like, how does he act? Okay, he works so damn hard. He is the first to come into the company, the last to leave, for example. And then everybody wants to also grind. And he doesn't care about filtering his speech through different PR departments or something. And that's why he has more time to do engineering also, because that he is an engineer is such an advantage, because he can talk the talk with all these engineers. I think also as an engineer, you think, wow, he's very intelligent. My boss isn't an idiot who just did an MBA and runs around optimizing for profit. So that's, I think, a huge aspect. I think he doesn't even care about money, really, because we all know, he just lives in a small apartment, just sold all his assets because it was shifted his focus or something. And But now I want to come to a different area as a transition, because I want to Herbert Diess, the CEO of VW. I think it was a few months ago. He invited over 100 high-ranking managers. He was very verbal about if we don't change something, 2030 we have to lay off 20,000 people in Germany, and that's a shock for all those people, because they manage these huge teams, and they think, oh, we're the German brand, and they are very, very arrogant. You have to say that. I think I'm not really sure, but that's what I read through the lines or something. And it was, you must imagine, this was a slap into the face of German pride in VW, because VW is very structured around, it's almost like patriotism a little bit. It's holy. VW is a very holy company here somehow. I don't. Since World War II, we don't have really like a focus on. We are not very patriotic in Germany, but the structure of VW is very military like. It's very like pyramid style. So it's a traditional company. After that, he also invited Elon Musk to elaborate how the hell do you produce cars 3 times faster than we do, and we are the specialist in producing fast. Like VW was a fast producing company a few years ago, but then they don't have expertise in software development, for example. They were running around all these ID3s and putting USB dongles into them to update them, because they didn't have over-the-air updates, for example. That's that's catastrophic. So we have this company structure. Now I want to talk about company structure. That's why I'm giving you a little bit background from the German side. How is Tesla structured? Is it more like a cluster structure, for example, that you have teams and you just like talk to different teams and try to structure it like this way, and the focus is innovating and not I don't know how it's called in English. It's like when you are in a department and you start to isolate yourself into the department.
Like siloed.
Yeah, siloed. Okay, silo. Yeah, that's maybe you can compare these two fields.
For sure. Yeah. That's a really good question. So yeah, Tesla very much is not siloed from what I saw. Now there are certain areas of the company that are very specialized. Yeah. So like say like the FSD development. I'm not going to be able to help with that, right? Like it's a very, very specific type of area, expertise. The battery guys, like the material guys that are trying to source the right materials for the batteries. I might be able to help them with like figuring out how to distribute the product around a little bit more efficiently. But when it comes to the chemical stuff, it's not. But outside of that, when you're thinking about like the upstream and downstream relationship of a manufacturer, like for us, upstream is all the suppliers that would send us the parts, or Tesla itself that send us the parts, and then we distribute downstream, right? We can influence any sort of piece of that supply chain as long as we're able to touch it at some point, right? So like we're incentivized to say, okay, if you find an opportunity upstream that's going to help make your life easier, go talk to the person that's doing that now. Like just go talk to them. Get on Microsoft Teams, figure out who's the person that's working there and be like, hey, John, here's the thing that I'm working on right now. I need to figure out how to solve this. Okay. And they'll be like, okay, cool. Let's get on a call right now and figure out how to make this happen. Right. There's no like, I need to talk to my boss so that the boss talks to someone else's boss. And then that person gets me that person's, contact. And then the person's probably never going to hit me back anyway, because they're too busy with their own thing. And they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to deal with you because that's not part of my job. Right. And Tesla, your job's just to make the company run as smoothly as humanly possible and to accelerate the mission. So whatever you can do to make that happen, you do. It's as simple as that. And you're encouraged to do that. And so what that means then is if you had a siloed structure, it would be impossible to do that, because if I'm not allowed, or if I'm discouraged or not encouraged to reach out to somebody in logistics, or somebody at the factory, or somebody from packaging, right? There's so many different pieces that we can touch from our perspective. Like I'm just stuck with what I'm doing. And then the only people that are making the improvements are the smallest percentage of the company, which are the leaders talking to each other. And a lot of leaders don't really know how to make stuff happen. They have to leverage their teams. There has to be teamwork. And usually the best teamwork comes when you take two different teams from two completely different sort of expertise, you bring them together, and then you start to realize, holy crap, you guys are using this to do this. Guess what? Let us give you some of our data or some of our tools to make your life easier. And then you steal their stuff as well. And then you become to really you start working together much more closely. And that really enables you to come up with solutions much more cleverly and way more cost efficiently and in a much quicker turnaround as well. That's just some of the downstream effects you get from that heavy collaboration. So yeah, it's great. The open line of communication is super encouraged, and I faced very little, if no blocks ever, to try and reach out to somebody. The one time I tried to reach out to someone who was completely outside of my area of expertise, but they were so busy, I'm like, I'm just gonna, they were working on something really, really important at the time. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna leave you alone. I understand. So yeah, it's a very different style, but again, like the people have to be trusted to use their time wisely, because the last thing you want is for people to like kind of lose focus of what they truly should be working on and start becoming sort of like scatterbrain and not being able to really execute against their thing. But Tesla staff usually does a pretty good job with that. And sometimes, yeah, you do get, distracted, but that's okay. That's just the risk. That's just the price you pay for having incredibly good innovation and super fast turnaround. Sometimes you're going to be working on stuff that you're not supposed to be working on, but then you'll catch yourself and then turn around and start working on that important thing. So, it goes both ways.
So would you say the management style that I imagine they still have managers or department managers or something like that? I don't know. But do you think the management style is more or less nudging the people, more or less, like really just nudging them a little bit into the right direction? Or is it more like you have to do this or that? Use your own head, but I think you're a little bit off the rails here. Just maybe you can come back.
You get feedback. Yeah, so the way Tesla does it, I mean, well, from what my experience is that you get feedback constantly. So you don't have like a thing where you get back with your boss, every 3 months or every 6 months, and you talk about what you could do better. Is if your leader sees something that you could be doing better, they just tell you. They'll just tell you straight up. It's a very collaborative environment. But primarily the way I saw the company runs is that people, again, are trusted to do the right thing and work on the right stuff. And then the boss doesn't really, or the leader doesn't really spend too much time like checking to make sure that you are. Your results speak for themselves, right? And like the results that the department is seeking are very transparent, and it's very easy for people to find out if, this person is not really doing something valuable. They're not really working what they're supposed to be working on. So you're constantly getting feedback on trying to make stuff better or moving something to the right. It becomes part of you just go to Tesla and just, you know what you have to work on because it's so transparent and open. Like the goals for the department are very, very open. And I think that's because the overall goals for the company are so broad and important that you can kind of create that sort of culture where we have these shared sort of projects that everyone's trying to work towards. And then you have a small piece of it, and then other people are depending on your piece, and no one's shy to reach out to you and be like, hey, I need this, I need this done right now, So yeah, it's very, if you do get a nudge, it happens right away. At least, in the departments that I worked on, I can't speak for every single department at Tesla, obviously, because I didn't work at every department. For the ones that I was exposed to, that was very much the case. It's just leaders just had a very open communication. And if they think you can do something better, great. And then it worked the other way around too. If I thought my leader could be doing something better, I'd tell him. I'd be like, yo, like I don't think this is the best use of our time, or we should be focusing on this instead. And Tesla usually does a very good job of hiring leaders that are very good at listening to feedback and implementing that feedback from their team.
In your experience, how relevant was a competition at Tesla? Because I think in Germany, it's a very huge factor that people work against each other a little bit because they have they're in their departments and they really want to get up the corporate ladder. It's very conservative structured. So how do you feel that? Was it really like, okay, we are a team, we are working together on one thing? And what I heard was that the payment was also a little bit leveled out. It wasn't like somebody earned that's what I heard. I'm not sure if that's true, but I mean, you one time also said you worked with a lot of millionaires because they got the Tesla stock compensation, so that levels it out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question. I never really thought about competition with my coworkers at any point in time. That wasn't really part of my sort of experience, and I would say that that's likely the case for most people. Now, I did observe people outside of my influence playing a little bit of politics, playing that game a little bit, to try and get themselves up higher. But every single one of those people were fired at some point.
Okay.
And I don't know if they were fired because of that, but I think they were fired is, again, this is just me generalizing. I don't even know if I'm thinking about this correctly, but this is my theory, is that at Tesla, if you play politics, what that means is that you're investing too much time in stuff that doesn't actually help the company move forward. And Tesla will notice that. Okay. And they'll be like, okay, you're not getting this stuff done. Why not? Oh, because I'm working on this and this and this. Like, okay, well, this is not important. Like, what are you're wasting your time, and they'll try to like craft that in a way so that, in their heads, what they're really doing is they're being competitive with other people and they're trying to get a leg up by playing a little bit of politics, right? From my experience, that doesn't really fly at Tesla. I didn't really see that happen. And if it does fly at some point, it gets squashed, and then before you know it, you're not working there anymore. So, I personally never experienced that competitiveness from what I saw. So I don't know, and I can't speak for like the entire company, but that's what I saw. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting dynamic. I feel like most companies run that way, and from my experience, is that there is too much politicking. There's too much one-upmanship. There's too much competition. It's a waste of time. But I think that's a direct result of the company not having enough stuff for their workers to work on, And I think that's why maybe it doesn't happen too much at Tesla, because there's always stuff to do. There's always very important work to do. So ego doesn't really get in the way. You just got to get shit done. You just got to get it done. Yeah.
It's very, very interesting, because why I'm always turning around a little bit is because I'm looking for these small lines that are there, because I think the wording and the priming of the people working at Tesla and corporate culture that is helping everything, because everybody knows or feels the corporate culture. It's beneficial for yourself if you focus on getting rid of problems in the first place. So that's what is incentivized or said, like, okay, you got to do that. And you know that in your subconsciousness, and then you work there. And I think it has a huge factor, because in design, we try to manipulate the perception of people, or we try to nudge them a little bit into directions that we want to get them. And it's very interesting to see that this kind of system works more or less like people are primed in their subconscious and just are working there. And you can compare Tesla with a little bit like a beehive or something. Like there's a hive intelligence that regulates itself, so you don't have to micromanage all the time. And I think micromanaging is the biggest waste of time if you have to. Yeah, that's like a babysitter job to sit around and just. So
let me ask you a question real quick on that. So is that micromanaging sort of culture? Are you saying that that's very prevalent in Germany? Is that something that's like accepted as a culture at those companies, or is it like more like, is it just a specific automaker thing that you're saying?
No, it's a cultural thing. Germany has a very interesting culture with like obeying the law and obeying rules, and that's why we also like to obey to structure very much. So if there's a structure, or if we have policies, for example, we are very scared to move forward. I mean, the justice system in Europe is reversed than in America. That's a very important point also, because in America, everything is allowed by default. Elon Musk tweeted that a few days ago. And in Germany, it's opposite. Everything is the other way.
You have to be told you can do this to actually do this.
Yes, and you have to check everything, because you could get sued if you do something wrong. And in America, it's different, the other way around. You can do what you want, but you can also poison a lake until somebody sues you for doing that, and then you have to pay your fines. And in Germany, it's like, Or yeah, more or less, more or less. I'm just
Yeah. I see what you're
overgeneralizing,
saying.
but
I
I
see what you're
mean
saying.
that's why like in Germany, it's very shocking to hear like, oh my God, what did the American companies do again? Like poison people or anything, and we are just like here sitting on our high horse, and oh, we have
Yeah,
our
but I
policies.
think
Everything is checked beforehand, and that's
that is
crazy.
so
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
That is so important for innovation, though, man.
yeah.
Like that's the thing. Is like you can't if you're always asking for permission if you can do something, innovation gets stifled so quickly. Because innovation, a lot of it's an art. I firmly believe that innovating is an art. Because when I think about my time at Tesla and sort of the things that I'm most proud of, the things that I'm most proud of that were extremely helpful happened because I just did them. It just happened, you know. And I wasn't even sure if I'm supposed to do it. I just freaking did it. And that sort of mentality, I think, is so important to make sure that that stuff happens, right? And so, what I'm very interested to see now that Tesla Berlin is open, the Gigafactory in Germany is open, is there going to be a culture clash in that facility?
I think so.
Because you're hiring a lot of local folks, right, that are used to that type of sort of work environment. And now that you have people, I wonder what the leadership structure is going to look like. If they're going to be a little bit more like, say, American style, where it's kind of like, you know, what is it? Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. That's like a saying that we have, you know. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work, because if it doesn't work that way, I'm not really sure if Germany is going to be like that facility is going to be a hub of innovation for the rest of the world. For Tesla, it might be a place where they take their best
Quality
learnings.
control.
Yeah, and then to pass it on to Berlin. You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious. I'm so fascinated to see what happens there, and I would love to gain insight into that at some point. But anyway, sorry for interrupting. I'm just
No.
that's super
Yeah, it's super interesting. Maybe we now come to the bonus part that I said. I wanted to
Sure.
elaborate. Why did the Gigafactory took so long to open up in Germany? That's very
Yeah.
interesting for Americans, I think, because they think, what the
Yes.
hell? What is happening there? Every
Yes.
time, all these policies, what's happening there? And that also goes into the bucket culture clash. That's very interesting topic. I think the younger people are very like different than the established people. So the establishment in Germany is very conservative with working and with their policies and everything. I think the younger engineers going to Tesla at the Gigafactory will contribute to helping Tesla. We can also learn a lot from the American style of managing, especially the style of Tesla, because we know the traditional automakers, the legacy automakers have problems with that also in America a little bit. I'll give you an example why it took so long. So we have a new airport in Berlin. So this airport was built, I think, started to build like 2010 or something, and it took 7 years to build.
Jeez.
And now you think, oh my God, what happened? In Germany, we have it like that. Companies who bid on a project. I mean, that would be similar in America, I assume. And so the problem is, more or less, airports are state-owned or incentivized by the state a lot. And the state has a lot of control in Germany also. So they bid on a project, underbid the project, so they get the job, then they drive up the price afterwards, because they just like, that's how they do it. It works because the German companies just compare, like, okay, we have somebody here who does that and that, okay, he's cheaper, let's take him, like that. And it's not on quality or anything, they just get the cheapest one. Yeah. And then what happened was they built the airport, and then in the time they built the airport, the long time they built it, because first of all, what insects are living there? Like at Tesla, the bats, for example, they couldn't cut down trees because of the bats. And we have very strong environmental protection laws in Germany. So people who are also don't want an American company in their foregarden or something, they just say, oh God, no, it's not environmentally friendly. It's so important to protect the environment and everything. I mean, the forest where the Gigafactory was built is for paper production. That's the thing. So it was not a natural forest or anything. So they have to replace all the beds to a different location. The same thing happened at the airport. And what happened then? It took so long because everybody said, don't build the airport there. And they always fighting. And on a policy level also, in Germany, we have a lot of policies. We have a lot of say what is going to be built around our neighborhood or something. It's we can always oppose. That leads to different lobby groups who are stifling the building of a new airport or something. What happened was the fire hazard policies changed while building the airport. And guess what happened? Oh my God, we have to tear it down and rebuild it.
No.
And they have to build it
twice.
Yes. And because of the companies that won the bid, they had to redo all the cabling because they couldn't find the cables. The cables were gone, like in the wall, or they don't know where they were built because the company that was hired to do the job just said, okay, fuck it, it's too complicated. It's you don't pay, okay, we're gonna leave. And then they didn't have a clue where the cables was. So it's very interesting, the difference in building stuff. I mean, if you want to build something in Germany, it takes like 1 year to get it approved. In America, you go there and say, okay, where's your disposable, where's the water disposed, where's your electricity? So just plug it in. Okay, 30 minutes, you're off. Yeah, it's also a little bit because of the reversed law. Like, you always have
to. But I wonder too, like in America, there's so much more land too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like we have so much land. I mean, it was I was originally from, when I came to the States, I lived in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And Eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey are both pretty dense. They're densely populated areas, kind of, you know, Germany's still going to be way more dense, and a lot of Europe's going to be way more dense. But in relation to like America, it's like they're pretty dense areas. And then when we moved to Texas and we're driving around Austin, like in the rural areas, I'm like, holy crap, is there a lot of land here? Like, oh my God, there's so much freaking land. So I could see how, like, it's just, I think it might just be part of the regulations, and correct me if I'm wrong, might just be a result of the fact that maybe a lot of Europe is already taken up. Like you already have a lot of like developments already there, and you probably have to rework a lot of the areas to make more room theoretically. I'm sure some countries have more room than others from a land perspective. But I really think that's why America has such lax laws in comparison to that, is because we have the room to grow into it. You know, we have the way the states, sort of govern a lot of things. Like in New Jersey, if you wanted to build something, say you wanted to build a gigafactory in New Jersey as an example, I bet you would be much more similar to the German experience than it was in Texas. Like in Texas, I think they were able to do it so easily is because the Texan government is extremely pro-business. You know, they're super, super pro-business, and they have a ton of land for companies to sort of go in and say, okay, I'm just going to get the permit here, whatever, 15, 30 days, however long it takes to do that. And then boom, you start throwing up your building. And in a lot of cases, you can probably start throwing your building and be like, oh, I'm sorry, they don't know I need to get a permit, and then they'll give you a permit, like I've seen that happen before. So yeah, it's just a very interesting dynamic. But thank you for that freaking insight, because the fact that they had to build an airport, tear it down, and rebuild it again is the craziest thing.
Just because of policies.
Wow, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, for Germany, 2 years is freaking fast. I mean, you heard the VW CEO maybe saying that they also building kind of a gigafactory at Wolfsburg, where VW's headquarters are. But it takes till 2026. It takes longer.
At least like twice as long.
Yeah, twice as long at least. I mean, there were a couple of forces that helped a gigafactory. I mean, for Germany, 2 years is friggin' fast. You can't imagine how. But I was, when he announced it, I was like, oh my God, don't do it in Germany. Please don't do it in Germany. Because
even then, I'll tell you, like even here, when I was talking to my neighbor when we moved to Texas. When I was telling him that Giga Texas is going to be up in no less than 2 years, I think it was like a year and a half, or I guess, it took about a year and a half to 2 years to get Giga Texas up. He was like, there's no way, it's going to take way longer. It's a huge structure. It just doesn't go that fast. But it wasn't because of the permitting process. It was because of sourcing the materials and getting the engineering done and the design and everything. In his head, that wasn't going to be the case, and it happened. He was like very impressed by that. So even within the context of that, even within the context of being an American company and dealing with a lot less regulations than a German company, even within that context, Tesla's extremely fast, because not because of how they navigate through the regulations, but because they're so good at finding the optimal solution for a problem. So like, how fast can we get this structure up? How fast can we source the materials? What is the physical limit that says, hey, this is the fastest we can go? Okay, let's figure out how to be that fast. Like, what are the things we have to put in? And that's where Tesla, I think, truly shines, is because they are really, the best way I define Tesla is that they are the best group of problem solvers, period, on earth. It's not the best engineers, it's not the best designers, it's not the best leaders, it's the best problem solvers. And that's why they've been able to do so many things in different areas. It's not just like they're extremely good at building an electric car, but they're also extremely good at building a factory really, really fast, right? That is the shared expertise in the culture there, and the workforce, is that they're problem solvers first. So I think it's also very interesting, and I don't think that's still well understood. Like, it's no accident that Tesla, the best automaker, the best electric automaker in the world, is also the fastest factory builder. It's also the most efficient line builder. It's also the best talent hirer. It's also the best leadership culture mentality. It's because it's run by problem solvers. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point, because I think ultimately that's what Tesla should be known for, is their problem solving capability, period. It doesn't matter what they're working on. They're going to be the best at it.
I also think Tesla is very important also for the German mentality and everything, to break it a little bit open, because I think Germany can really benefit from that. And also the government had a lot of problems with VW, because they had expectations and they didn't for example, the scandal that was happening, that was also a problem in Germany, but in German media it was just put under the rug a little bit. And so
it was a big deal here, man. That whole diesel thing you're talking about.
Yeah. Dieselgate, yeah, it was crazy, but also that's why they really want the competition here. So the German state wants the competition here, because they know, okay, we have battery production on our soil. I mean, everybody's waking up. VW is waking up. Maybe some car companies won't make it till 2030 or something, or 2032. It will be very interesting, and I think the culture is really the key factor about everything there,
yes,
for innovation and everything. That's very interesting, the approach that they do, and focus on the results, not on the process. It's crazy that so many companies focus on process, not on results, really.
Let me ask you this real quick. Is Herbert Diess looked at well by the public? Like, are Volkswagen employees, like, do they want him around? Because I've read that people are not very happy with how he's handling stuff. What do you think?
Herbert Diess is viewed from the established workers at VW. Herbert Diess is more or less viewed as somebody who is disrupting everything, and not in a positive way. So like, oh God, it's just he's disrupting something. That's why the board talked about replacing Diess, because he was openly saying, and marketing is everything for VW. So Herbert Diess was saying the best German company, more or less, in the automotive space, says that they won't catch up to Tesla publicly. And that's a disaster for them, because they're just, politics is what is their game. Yeah, it's very true. It's extremely true. But they don't see it really much. That's why I meant, like, it's a little bit more or less, some people who are like view VW as a patriotic thing, think that's like oh, traitor, he's a traitor, like that. I think many people also that see it as necessary. You have to face reality, and I think Herbert Diess was the most verbal one in the German automotive space to do that. That's why he's very respected also as a leader, because in Germany you don't stick your head out. You can't have an Elon Musk in a company. It's you don't stick your head out. That's not viewed as you're sitting like this. You duck just through the heads everybody. That's also a little bit in a culture thing, and we always like to say, the politicians are bad. It's all the politicians' fault. That's a little bit a thing in Germany that you say this. It wasn't me. It was the politicians, or it's always somebody who is above you, and yeah, it's crazy.
I've seen that happen here too. Yeah, I mean that's yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it's very much a German thing. But I think he's respected for saying the truth and trying to navigate that. That's in some circles he's respected, in some circles not. But yeah. The general public, I think, sees it more or less a little bit like he's a traitor or something. And Germans love their diesel cars. It's crazy, how slow it grows here, more or less. But we will see.
What percentage would you say is like Herbert Diess is a traitor versus not? Like, what's that percentage breakdown, if you were to guess?
That's hard to say. I would say it's like more on the side that Herbert Diess is more or less a traitor, a little bit leaning. Yeah, because people are very proud. Give it a few years, like 2 years, and he will be Messiah, more or less, like the Messiah. Sure. Yeah, because I
think he's extremely important. He's extremely important to this whole EV transition. So, like I have hope. What I hope selfishly for Tesla. And this is going to become really bad so say Volkswagen for some reason decides that they don't want Herbert Diess anymore, which would be a humongous mistake in my opinion. I would selfishly want him to become the CEO of Tesla and let Elon just focus on design, like in SpaceX. Like Diess obviously is like focused on what the right things are to do, and he's not afraid to say the right thing. And the fact that he's doing that in Germany, which based on your description is something that's very unorthodox and not looked at very fondly a lot of times. Like, that's the kind of person you want running Tesla. Like, and Elon very openly has said, like, he doesn't want to be CEO. If he can find somebody that can do the job, please let him do it, because he doesn't like doing it. Now, I would argue that Elon is the best CEO in the world because he doesn't want to be CEO. Because being CEO is like a freaking nightmare of a job, if you really think about it. But I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic to see. But like, I'm a huge fan of Herbert Diess. I really like him a lot. I think he's a great leader. Like, to the point where, like, if I was ever, say in a previous lifetime, they were like, yo, you should go work for Herbert Diess, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, I really respect the guy. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see. That's crazy, man. Wow. But I'm not surprised to hear that, because there's always going to be sides to these things. Even here in America, like, a lot of people don't like Elon Musk because he's a billionaire, he's a bad person, he's a really bad person, blah, blah, blah. But then you actually talk to people like them, no, that he's actually great. He's super good for the country. And yeah, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah, no problem.
Go on this thing.
He's a freeloader. Freeloader is a word.
To Elizabeth
crazy.
Warren.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. It's very interesting to view those perspectives, because I also think the German side is important, because Germany is so established in the automotive space, and the nuances get lost. Many people thought, what's happening in Germany? Everybody was a little confused what was happening here, and I was like, sure. Yeah, I said it before. Yeah. But
I appreciate that color. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I want to come to an end now, because I appreciate your time, and I'm looking at the clock. I really liked the conversation now. It was very insightful also for me, for getting a look into the corporate culture at Tesla. I'm very thankful that you gave me your time. If you find a German article that you can't understand the context or something, you can always hit me up. We can talk about it. I'm very interested in those things. It's such a shift happening right now, and it's very important to follow all these ideas.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really enjoyed the conversation. Absolutely. If I ever if I'm ever having any questions or anything like that, definitely let's keep an open line of communication, because I really value your opinion, and this was just a great conversation. You're obviously a great guy. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you asking. I always feel like I'm trying my best to bring value to the discussion around Tesla and sort of the EV marketplace, because I have had some exposure to it. So, anytime anybody asks me to sort of jump on and have a conversation, I'm more than willing to. And yeah, any other questions you have for me, feel free to ask them. I'm open to having this discussion as many times as you need. And yeah, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. This was the TeslaFix interview with Farzad Mesbahi. Make sure to check his channel out. Video links in the description below.